Hey friends, so I'm here to do what I do best. I'm going to take all my knowledge, all my research, all my experience being a TV writer producer for scripted crime shows, and I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to give you as much hope as I can by connecting some dots and really making you think about the bigger picture here, because I think we're getting very locked into the micro details and wanting things to happen immediately. And by the way, I am going to personally apologize because part of the reason why I think everyone is impatient is because you're used to watching the types of shows that I write where we conclude an entire case in 42 minutes. That is not how the real justice system works. But I promise you, they know they have a deadline and it's coming. It may be in the 11th hour, but it's coming. So let's get into it. This is for entertainment purposes only. I grabbed this comment because I'm going to start here. This comment links to my previous video where I talked about Jack Smith's report that came out late last night, volume 1, which deals with everything that happened leading up to and on January 6th, and the Orange Man basically trying to overturn the previous competition. So this comment is very important, okay? It says, this puts a huge target on them by putting this report out, and it absolutely does. And in fact, in Jack Smith's letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland, he highlights something in this letter that I want you to really pay attention to because it's going to prove my point, okay? So I'm going to read it to you. He's talking about how grateful he is to his team, and he says, the intense public scrutiny of our office, threats to their safety, and relentless, unfounded attacks on their character and integrity did not deter them from fulfilling their oaths and professional obligations. These are intensely good people who did hard things well. I will not forget the sacrifices they made and the personal resilience they and their families have shown over the last 2 years. Our country owes them a debt of gratitude for their unwavering service and dedication to the rule of law. Without pause, they have upheld the department's commitment to the impartial and independent pursuit of justice. For that, I am grateful, as I know you are as well. So I want you to really think about this for a second, okay? The DOJ right now, their lives are literally on the line. Putting this report out, making this public, made them public enemy number one. If they honestly thought that the Orange Man was going to take office next week and basically put all their heads on a proverbial spike, but maybe literal, do you think they would endanger their lives and their families' lives? I don't think so. They are smart people. Their livelihoods and their actual lives are in jeopardy. Because do you know what happens when people like the Orange Man take power during all of our past history? Their opponents, their enemies, don't survive. I'm being really serious with you right now because this is not a normal transition of power, as I know you guys know. So putting this out is an act of defiance. It is throwing a gauntlet. It is saying, we are coming for you and we are not scared. So please, this is not just like, oh, we've read this before, we read the indictment. I need you to read the letter that Jack Smith wrote at the beginning and at the end of this document, and it tells you everything you need to know about what's coming. Since we all like when I talk in TV terms, you need to think about it as being an episode of this show. This is not about just one man. This is about an organization. This is about a group of people. And in order to take down an OC, you have to have coordination. You have to have years of planning, which they have, okay? They have been building this case for years. This is a piece of it, but they have so much more that we don't even know about, which is why they felt confident enough to release it. Because if you read the letter from the Orange Man's lawyers, they were adamant for about 8 pages how dangerous it was for them to release it and how Merrick Garland should not. Why would they care? If it's everything we basically already know, why would it bother them? Maybe because they know what I know, is that is the tip of the iceberg. And if this is released, that means there's no fear that there are going to be repercussions because they are in control, because the gauntlet has been thrown, because the hammer is about to come down. You get what I'm saying? So you have to think about it like this, all right? And it's not enough just to get the head of the snake. You got to get all the pieces. You got to get everybody in that organization. I'm going to bring us back to January 6th for a second, because I know how unhappy we all were that the blue team did not stand up and say anything. And I'm going to give you a little bit of context, not only because they had to let the crime be completed, okay, but there's another piece of this puzzle. Okay, so this was January 6th in 2017. And on that day, the blue team did raise objections. So on that day, they had a different rule, which is that they only needed one congressperson and one person from the Senate to both object for things to basically stop, shut down. Everyone would have to go into separate chambers and deliberate. They could not get one blue team senator, not one, to stand up and make an objection. All 11 objections came from people in the House, mostly black women. Not one senator was willing to stand up. Not one. In fact, only 4 of them even showed up to the proceedings, to the certification. You can see here it says that Senator Cornyn said it was embarrassing for House Democrats that they couldn't get a senator to join the protest. So if you think that they were going to be able to get, and I thought maybe they could, but they were never going to get 87 votes from one house and 20 from the Senate. They were never going to get that. If they couldn't even get one senator in 2017 to stand up and say something, they definitely weren't going to get them to do it this year in that kind of numbers. And I don't think that was ever the plan anyways, because of the sting, because the crime had to be completed for Executive Order 13848 to do the next phase. And I just want to remind you, this is from the DOJ manual. I just want to remind you of this again. So until certification happened, like I said before in a previous video, they were not allowed to publicly do anything in terms of EI. Okay, that doesn't mean that things weren't happening behind the scenes, because they absolutely were. Because of EO 13848, they had to be, but they couldn't actually do anything that we can see in the public until after January 6th. Now you're saying, okay, fine, but it's January 14th. I promise you things are moving and things are happening. They did show us some of their cards by putting out Jack Smith's report. That is a piece of the puzzle. That is a domino. So something has happened, okay? When you are investigating and prosecuting a crime, you need motive, you need means, you need opportunity, and you need evidence. And we have now, in this report, absolute motive. We know why he had all the motivation in the world, and we know how, and we know who helped him. There have already been sanctions placed on 2 countries, and there is a certain Muscatina who is now being basically accused by multiple countries in the EU of affecting their competitions. So we know how, we know motive, and we know he had opportunity because the thing existed. It happened on the day. And this is why I've been telling you from the beginning, it is going to be the greatest cyber sting operation of all time. Just you wait. Keep the faith, sending love, sending solidarity. More is coming.